Good evening and welcome to a quick update video on tinkering with Edkelar. You might realize that this is a shorter one and also not in the usual schedule. But with my projects getting bigger and audience feedback, that is your comments, getting more to the point with every project, I might have updates every now and then. Putting the updates in between the regular projects, if and whenever I have them, seems to be a good idea to me. What do you think? Comment below. Unless YouTube has moved the UI again, then, well, your guess is as good as mine. The first project update I have is about the vintage headphones. A viewer said that these should have a leather covering over the headband, and it does make sense to me. Provide a bit of buffer so it's easier on the head. I do have a selection of leather scraps around and found a decent dark patch that seems fine. The plan is to get 2 strips of leather with the spring band sandwiched between them. My biggest concern is the curved shape. If I stitch the layers of leather together flat, which would be easy, it would probably be all crinkled up when I put it on the headband. So I need to make the stitches on the actual curve. I'm cutting the leather based on an eyeball size, with some allowance for turned over edges. I think I can leave the shorter edges as is, but the stitched sides should be doubled up, making 4 layers of leather to stitch. In order to simplify the stitching process, I'll glue the edges in first. Let's see if the glue still works. I found a thin piece of foam for the cushion. And after confirming the glue, I cut out the second strip. Looking good. Now for the yarn. It is waxed yarn and I cut it to 4 times the length of the stitch. I try to follow this pattern. Zigzag through the same holes in the leather. That's why I start with twice the expected length from the center out on one side. The far edge can then be knotted inside the 2 layers for an almost invisible finish. It took about 3 hours, but after lots of stabbing and pulling on needles, I got both sides stitched up. The 2 strips were cut to exactly the same length. Due to the curve, the inner one is now about 2 centimeters shorter than the outer one and needed trimming. This is why I didn't want to stitch it flat. The downside of that idea is that it is much easier to keep the holes in line from the side you are punching in. The outside curve is thus, well, slightly out of line. and adding the speakers again. Yes, much more comfortable. So this has been a brief project update. It was too little for a full episode, but I didn't want to keep it from you either. Tell me what you think, and see you next time! If I stitch the layers together on the layers of leather together